Hey fellow VOD dwellers, it's Angry Turtle and here I go with updated version of my best legendary effects for weapons, and both melee and range weapons, but we are starting with a melee weapons because it's much quicker topic and not as big as range weapons, of course. And I have very short list that I'm using with my melee weapons. I will not stop too long in here, but I will shortly explain. As you can see, I only included Vampire and Anti-Armor as my desired first star effects. That's because in case of melee weapons, if you go for damage increasing effect, even for something like a Bloodied, at some point, because of how damage is calculated for melee, even Bloodied will be barely noticeable and barely making any difference. Therefore, I either go for healing with Vampire or Anti-Armor for more damage on bosses, as this is the only effect that is significant in case of melee. Then for the second star, I consider only two effects, when definitely like number one, a king, is faster swing speed, and then much lower number 2 power attack damage. It's still really good, but for everyday life, I using faster swing speed much more. And then finally for a third star, you can be surprised that number 1 for me is less VATS action point cost, but that's because of legendary packs that are requiring from you to use VATS. And melee weapons in general are quite AP expensive, then less cost in VATS is very useful. Then if not that, +1 strength is amazing. Less damage while power attacking, it's really good in combination with more power attack damage. And keep in mind that in case of sprinting into enemy, even if you attack with a normal attack, it will count and it will effectively be a power attack. If you sprint and attack, that's a power attack. That's why it's here. And finally, reduce weight if you don't want anything else. And that's about it for melee weapons. I have my melee character and those are the only effects that I'm really using. I stop using anything else unless I don't have options. But if I have options, I go for something from this combo. And now back to range weapons. And as you can already see, in case of range weapons, I have much longer list and I will go one by one in here. Of course, I don't have all possible effects on this list, only the ones that I think are the best for many reasons, and I will quickly explain. First, Anti-Armor. It's number 1 for me, just because Anti-Armor is super universal. No matter high health build, low health build, no matter what weapon basically, it is always super helpful, increase your damage by a nice amount. There is no requirement whatsoever to use it. Then yeah, number 1, universal and really powerful. Number 2, Vampire. As you know, Vampire makes you basically unkillable, what is quite a significant strength for most weapons, especially shotguns, automatic weapons and explosive weapons. What's meant almost all the weapons. Next, Quad. This is in here because in case of weapons with small magazine size, Quad is a number 1 to increase your DPS. Therefore, I think it deserves high position on my ranking list. After that, good old Bloodied. As you notice, I rank it number 4 because I don't consider it the strongest effect anymore. It's still quite powerful nevertheless. 80% additive damage at 20% health, that cannot be discarded. It's still a lot. It's more than anything else really, with exception of course of Quad and Anti-Armor, where both those effects with correct weapon and correct build can do more damage than Bloodied DPS wise. Then that's why this order. Next we have new effect, Aristocrats, and basically it's in here because plus 50% damage with barely any requirements, as 29k caps is super easy to achieve and maintain, is in here, and it replaces Junkies that was on my old list. Although if you have Junkies and you want to keep using it, it will be ranked actually in the same place, if not the fact that Junkies requires much more sacrifice because you need 5 addictions. Then I consider Aristocrats to be better at this moment as there is less requirement. And after that I put TSE intentionally because I didn't want to put two-shot here to mislead people, as two-shot by itself is not really a good effect. But in combination with explosive, it is really nice effect for many reasons. Like, it's super easy to tag enemies on events without killing them, and simultaneously, if you are solo and shooting all bullets, all explosions on one enemy, it's doing really high damage that can really compete with aristocrats or anti-armor. Then yeah, it should be in here. Of course, there is much more effects, and enemy specific effects were buffed, but because aristocrat still works on everything and have super low requirement and give the same bonus as, for example, mutant slayers or zealots, then those enemy specific effects didn't made it to the list. I was thinking to put suppressor as a honorable mention, but I decided I shouldn't really for now, as reducing damage of enemies still not very important aspect of this game. But if you want to go for support build, I would say suppressors can be close to the list. Next, for the second star, and still for me the king and number one is faster fire rate, just because how universal this effect is and the fact that it provides a significant DPS increase. It costs you more bullets to achieve that, but it is super universal regardless if you go for VATS or no VATS. Doesn't matter, it still increases your damage by a lot. After that, critical damage, and it's really high as you notice, number two, and reason for that is I discovered not too long ago, I don't remember exactly when, a month ago, a critical damage completely bypass the damage mitigation of bosses, like Colossus or Scorch Beast. And by damage mitigation, I mean 80% damage reduction that Colossus has and 70% damage reduction that Scorch Beast Queen has. Then that's why it's in here. It doesn't bypass stability, doesn't bypass damage reduction, but bypasses damage mitigation. Therefore, it's super powerful than increasing damage to the bullets that are already hitting hard, because they bypassing all those damage mitigation is way more important than increasing damage overall if you want to get full DPS on the boss in VATS. That's why it's here. And number three, VATS hit chance, 50%, as I show in the video when we are testing those legendary effects. It's great, it's a lot, and helps so much when we talk about everyday usage of those weapons. Then I think number three, no matter what, and for some of you probably even higher. Then number four, replenish action points with each kill as well. Everyday use, amazing. It changes your weapon into basically perpetuum mobile, as you get your AP back when you kill enemies. Then you can stay in VATS forever killing normal enemies. Then it's really good, I think. It's not helpful really for bosses, but for everyday use, amazing. Next, very low on my list, but still on my list, Bullet Explode for area damage. And the reason for that is it's really high in combination with two-shot. That's why TSE is separate on the first star list. That's a combination of two-shot and explosive. But explosive by itself doesn't always benefit you so much as you think. It's nice that it shows higher damage on the Pip-Boy, but yeah, it depends on the weapon. It's not always the best choice. That's why it's number 5, although it's still really good. That's why it's on the list. It's not like explosive, it's not a good effect. It is good, but in my opinion, not the strongest one. And then number 6, very low, 25% damage while aiming. And the reason for that is, as in case of builds that already have a lot of damage, like stealth, when you will think that this have the most sense, is not very powerful, and the requirements to actually aim exclude ability to use VATS. What's big? Like, you cannot use this bonus in VATS because you need to hold aim button to get this bonus. Therefore, yeah, it's not as great, although there are some weapons that can benefit greatly. Like, for example, heavy guns, if you aim them, like, it doesn't matter if there is scope or there is no scope. All that's matter is to hold aim button to get this bonus. And yes, it is additive bonus. Next, here, it's like, I put it in here because it was in the patch notes, but for whatever reason it's not available in the game. Then I put it in here. I don't know if this will actually get added or not. It was in the patch notes, it wasn't added, and now I don't really know if this will be good, but it can be. Then we'll see if this will ever get added. And finally, for the third star, less AP cost is of course the king for any VATS build. Then yeah, that needs to be number one. But close after, my number two, breaks 50% slower, and that's the effect that wasn't actually put into the patch notes, but made it into the game. Therefore, I'm not sure, maybe this one should be in the patch note and this should be removed. I'm not sure about it, but it's looked like that. I tested this effect. I didn't test it in any video because it was not a very fascinating test, but basically it does work great and doubles your weapon durability. That's basically what it does, doubles your weapon durability effectively, and it's super awesome for weapons that breaks really fast. For example, all type of flamers. And you know that flamers are very powerful, but breaks rather fast. Then with this effect, problem of breaking is sorted, and really, like for weapons that you are not using in VATS, there is nothing better than break slower if they break too fast otherwise. And number three, 15% faster reload, as of course it helps you to increase DPS and reduce the downtime when you are reloading and you can get killed because you cannot shoot back. Then I think that's still quite a solid effect. I wish it would be a little bit higher than 15%, but we have what we have. In the past I was including as well reduced weight, but I decided to scrap it, as most weapons, after you mod them, it doesn't really reduce the weight at all. Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Then those are three effects that I included. Of course, you're probably thinking, but there was a lot more effects added with this patch, and yes, that's true. And they all happen to be rather on the weak side. Therefore, yeah, I couldn't include them because it will not be the list of best legendary effects if I will include weak legendary effects just because they are cool then. No, that's not a cool effects list, that's the best legendary effects list. Then here you go, guys. Of course, if I miss your favorite combination that you are using effectively and you have great results with that, please share in the comments section and I will check it out. And now, as always, thank you a lot for watching and see you all in the next one.